Something I talk a lot about in my coaching calls with clients is that you can only control your thoughts, your feelings, your mood, your attitude, your focus. You can only control what's internal. You cannot control directly what is happening around you. You can't control how people think. You can't control how people feel. You can't control the weather. You can't control politics. You can't control traffic. You can't control your job fully, right? You can control who you are and how you show up in your job, but you can't control what your boss is going to say or do or think of you. And you may have influence, but you can't just make something happen. You can't be guaranteed that if you do this, you're going to get that result. But you can be guaranteed about that internally. That if you can focus your mind on what you want and play around with that, you can cultivate the feeling of having it. You can direct your focus. And this is the other thing about your internal world being within your control, is it's only within your control. Nobody has influence over that, no matter how untrue that may sound. I know some people kind of argue back about this, and that's fine. Like, let's make sense of this. Often it's like, well, they said this and that made me feel this way. But we're skipping over the interaction. They said this, and you thought what about it that made you feel that way, right? How we respond is within our control. When we are all dysregulated and react and feel like we are like stepped outside of our bodies and we're just like screaming at people or, losing it, that is still our responsibility. And we do have control over that. And I speak as someone who has definitely had those experiences myself. So the practice is noticing, tuning in, recognizing, where am I? What am I focused on? How does it feel? Do I like this? Do I want more of this? If I don't want more of this, why am I feeding it? Why am I feeding this thought, this feeling, this story? And if people are treating me in a way that I don't like, it's still up to me how I respond. And my best piece of advice for this that I hold dearly for myself is, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up for me? What feels good for me? So it's not about saying the right thing, doing the right thing, being the right way to try to get the response you want or the outcome you want, and doing your best to control the uncontrollable. But it's so much more about, at the end of the day, when I go to bed at night, am I proud of how I held myself? Do I like the state of being I was in? Am I happy with who I was being today? Maybe not every moment of the day am I super proud and happy of the way I'm acting. But for the most part, we can tune in and shift that as soon as we feel like we're getting off track. And that takes practice. So don't beat yourself up if you kind of lose control or get back into the habit of trying to control things outside of your control. But we need to take it back, bring it home. What am I thinking? What am I focusing on? How am I making a story about what's going on? Do I like that story? It's just a story. It's just what our mind is making meaning out of, and we can make infinite meanings out of things. But we get habituated in the way we think. We get habituated based on our beliefs, the way we frame what we're perceiving. And so, again, it's up to us. It's our control. What are we focusing on? What story are we telling? What meaning are we making? If it doesn't feel good, then it's a pretty clear indication that what we are focusing on internally and the story we're telling is a bunch of BS that is based on outdated beliefs that are limiting us and holding us back, because we deserve to feel good. And so if we're telling a story that makes us feel crappy and disempowered and like a bad person and giving us no hope for growth, then we need to look at that story that we're telling. And we need to change it. And no one's going to have the right story for you to tell. It's within your control and no one else's. So that's when you got to play around and figure out what would feel better. What story do I want to be true? And if that was true, how would it feel? All day long, who do I want to be? How do I want to look at this? What do I want to be true about this situation? And how can I frame it to feel like that is true? Practice it being true. What if it was true? You don't have to believe it right away. But just say, for example, someone's yelling at you. Your boss is berating you and making you feel like crap. You did a bad job. Maybe your habit is to be hurt by that. That really bothers you. Maybe you get angry. Maybe you type out a big angry text to your friend to tell them about a piece of crap your boss is and how horrible this job is. Maybe that's your habit. Maybe does that feel good? Do you like that? Do you like being the person who gets yelled at and then complains about it and feels small and angry and stuck? And so if you don't, just consider maybe there's a different perspective you could take. Okay? It doesn't mean that the way you're looking at it, that there's anything wrong with you. It's just that's the habit you got into. Now, let's think of something you might like better. You can't change what's happening outside of you. You can't change that your boss is being that way. But you can absolutely change your internal world. And I can attest to this because I certainly had various jobs, one in particular where, that kind of stuff happened to me. And a technique, I made a video probably a couple of years ago about it, but a technique that I used was just imagining that what they were saying was they were talking to a mirror. There was a mirror in front of me facing them, and everything they were saying was just going back to them. And I was holding my integrity, and it felt very good, oddly enough, to have someone in my face being not very nice and knowing that this has nothing to do with me. If they want to act childish and yell, that's on them. I'm grounded. They could take their own crap. It can go right back to them. It has nothing to do with me. And I didn't go home, and I don't even know what it was about anymore, what that situation was, because I didn't go home or go to my phone and text anyone or complain about it or make it a big thing. I just let it be and held on to who I wanted to be. And I was proud of myself, and it felt good. And there would have been a time where I could have yelled right back to someone or stood up and walked away or bawled my eyes out. But who do I want to be? And that's the question that I continually ask myself throughout the day. And I highly recommend you do too. When you feel like you're out of control and you're trying to control a situation, or you don't know how to control a situation, which you can't, or you're not sure how to respond, or you're unclear of what you even want out of a situation, instead of focusing on the outcome specifically, just turn to who do I want to be? What makes me feel good about myself? So I hope that was helpful. It was a bit of a rant, but if you have any thoughts or questions about it, just pop a comment below. I'm always happy to respond. Otherwise, I'm wishing you the very best. Take care.